Yo, what's up everybody? It's Manga Mike here and I'm back with yet another video. So in today's video I'm going to be talking with you about something that's actually pretty personal to me, but I'm going to be talking about how to deal with the struggles of wanting to be a digital artist in any kind of profession when you have ADHD. So full disclosure, I actually do have ADHD myself, so I've gone through a lot of ups and downs trying to figure out things that work for me. So I'm going to share with you some of the knowledge that I have on ADHD, being a therapist myself, and also some of the things that I have done in order to at least somewhat succeed, right? I've made a couple of comics now and I pretty consistently draw. I think I've gotten to a streak of 500-ish days of drawing every day, at least something small. So that's really for me, that's really big. So I want to share some of that with you and hopefully it's really helpful. Alright, let's get started. Alrighty, so one of the first things that you're going to kind of struggle with as a person with ADHD is just beginning the task of drawing. So let me give you a little bit of the science behind this. So people in general actually have difficulty starting tasks, no matter what it is. But the reason why somebody with ADHD has even more difficulty is because most people with ADHD, not all, they have a little bit less dopamine that gets released in their brains for these these tasks that have longer term rewards. So what that means is dopamine is a particular kind of chemical that gets released and it helps us experience things like joy and happiness. So when you're having difficulty having that release, you're more likely to do tasks that give short-term rewards. So sitting down and drawing and sketching for a little bit, that's a long-term reward because you're working on something to improve so that you can get a long-term goal of perhaps becoming a professional, right? Whereas something like a video game is almost immediately rewarding. You do a combination of something right, you defeat your foe in the game, and then you move on to the next level, and a lot of times you power up your character. So that's one of the biggest things biggest hurdles I should say that we're going to run into as people with ADHD. So let me give you a quick tip on how to kind of fight that. Alright, so the way that we kind of combat this is we actually just remove obstacles in the way. So let me give you a quick scenario. If you want to, for instance, go to the gym on Wednesdays and Fridays, one of the ways that you can kind of plan to go to the gym is you get up in the morning and you pack your stuff, you put it in your bag, and then you get up, go to your car, or have your parents drop you off or what have you at the gym, and then you can go, right? Now, that process probably takes 15-ish minutes, right? Maybe a little less, depends on how long it takes you to pack a bag. Now, what if you knew that you were going to go to the gym on Wednesday, so Tuesday night you already had a bag packed and it was already in your car, right? So now you've eliminated probably 5 to 10 minutes within the next day that you decide to do this task of going to the gym. The same is true of trying to draw, right? So for instance, a process that could happen if you draw on digital stuff like a computer using a graphics tablet is if you shut your computer down, then the next morning in order to start drawing you have to get up, you need to turn your computer on, you have to wait for your computer to actually turn on, you have to put in the passcode, then you have to go, you have to open Clip Studio Paint or Photoshop or whatever you use to draw on. You have to wait for that to open up, and then you have to get a canvas and then go on and draw, right? So what if instead you just put your computer to sleep with the app still up and a canvas ready for you to draw on, so that when you got up and you were ready to actually draw, you just came in and you wiggled your mouse and you put in your passcode and everything was already set up, right? It might not seem like much, but people are lazy as a whole, right? And with with ADHD also comes that idea of if it's not quick, if I can't do it quickly, then I'm going to get distracted, or I'm just not going to do it at all because it requires a little too much out of me. So removing all of those barriers is extraordinarily important. Now, I can't go through a whole bunch of different scenarios with you because there's infinite, right? But another thing that you can also do is you can keep a sketchbook with a pen in it, and you just keep it in spots of the house, or keep it in a spot of the house in which you frequent, right? So that it's always kind of in sight, and you can say, oh, okay, I just need to go ahead and get some sketches done today so I can get my practice in. It's already there. And don't worry, like, just because you're doing traditional and you want to be a digital artist, that doesn't mean that the skills won't transfer over. So that's kind of like the mindset that you should have. Think about all of the steps that you're taking right now that are prolonging the process of you having the thought in your head to go and draw and actually drawing, and figure out a way to cut down on that time, because you're more likely to do something if it takes you less time to start it than if it takes you more time to start it. So that's number one. So let's go on to like kind of the next thing. Alrighty, so the next thing that we might find difficult as individuals with ADHD is working on something and doing it for a prolonged period of time. Now, this obviously depends on which kind of like ADHD you have and how you as a human being deal with your ADHD. For instance, some people get really hyper focused on things, and it's easy for them to do it for hours on end, right? Sometimes to their own detriment. And some individuals, they start a task and they run into a small obstacle, or they get distracted with a notification from somewhere, and they're kind of going down a different rabbit hole, right? I actually kind of fit into both of these categories, strangely. Like, I've had experiences where I've sat and I've been drawing for like 6 hours straight and didn't really realize that I hadn't eaten anything. And I've also had times where I try to come in here and sit down at my desk and start drawing, and then I get distracted with 50 other things and I never end up drawing, right? So how do we kind of combat that? I have a few things that I want to share with you that have been helpful for me, and I hope that they're helpful for you as well. Let's go into that. Alrighty, so my first word of advice is to remove distractions. So imagine this scenario. You finally have gotten to the point where you're getting ready to start drawing. The canvas is already up. You've removed all the obstacles, like I said in the previous step, and you're getting ready to put pen to paper, and then a notification from Instagram comes up. You click on the notification, and then you start going through, and you see a whole bunch of people's art and stuff like that, and then you see some short videos of people just quickly scribbling through and doing like a head or something like that, and then you decide, hey, this is a pretty cool short video. I wonder if this person has a TikTok. So you then go into TikTok and you start watching some of their videos, and 30-40 minutes later you look up, or an alarm goes off, and you have to either go to work or go to school, or you have chores to do or something like that, and you didn't even get a chance to actually draw. Don't let this happen to you. This has happened to me, right? I'm not afraid to admit it. But what you can do is, on whatever device you decide that you're going to be using for your art, don't put anything else on it. Or if you don't really have that choice or that opportunity, just take off all of those notifications. Don't allow Instagram notifications to pop up, Facebook, YouTube, any of that stuff. Turn all of it off. Because you want that time and that space to just be for the goal of working on art. So that is my next piece of advice for you. It was extraordinarily helpful for me. Like, I'm gonna go into this in a second, but I got an iPad recently, and I don't do anything else on that iPad besides draw. I don't have any games on it, no nothing. So, and that's, like I said, it's been very, very helpful for me. Alright, let's go to our next one. Alright, so the next thing is create a space for yourself that feels good, that makes you happy. So basic psychology would kind of tell us that if a place that we frequent at, a place that we go to a lot, if it's something or set up in a way that we don't enjoy, or it gives us bad vibes, we're going to be less likely to go to that place, and in this circumstance, you're going to be less likely to sit down to draw. So you want to make sure things are pretty pretty consistent for you. Like, you want to have a nice comfortable seat, you want things to be clean, you want the decorations to be something that motivates you, right, or makes you happy. All of those things are extraordinarily important because, like, again, an individual with ADHD myself, it's difficult to go into that space and start working because I'm distracted by all the things that probably make me unhappy, right? So you don't want that to happen to you. You want to make sure that you're enjoying the place that you're actually drawing in. Now, there is a little bit of a caveat to this, and I will get to this a little later, but sometimes individuals with ADHD, they get kind of bored with the particular space, even if it was something that they enjoyed before. So I'm going to also give you some tips and hints as to how you can kind of combat that as well. Alright, so the last big topic that I'll talk about in this video is doing consistent work. So there's a difference in sporadically working throughout the week for 2 to 3 hours and working every single day for the rest of your life for 30 or 40 minutes. If, obviously there's going to be some days that you'll miss, but there's a big difference between the two, and that difference is, one, you're relying on your motivation to push you to do something, and then the other is you've created a habit and you've said that this thing is important to me and I'm going to continue to do it. Now, this is one of the more frustrating parts about having ADHD. We sometimes don't do things that are congruent with our actual beliefs. So for instance, I know that sitting at my desk or sitting somewhere and drawing on specific topics that I know will help me improve, if I can do that every single day, then eventually I will hit a standard of art in which I can probably become a professional, right? But just because I know that doesn't necessarily mean I will actually do that. Hence all the steps before, right? And some of the explanations that I've given you about how ADHD impacts that kind of thought process. So in order to create habits that are congruent with our beliefs, we have to do some things to lay the foundation for it. So I'm going to go through some of those different possibilities to help you lay that foundation. Alrighty, so I'm going to recommend that you choose a device or a system that is going to allow you to be mobile. So the reason for that is because even with a space that you really enjoy, for most people, at least with ADHD, with the lower level of dopamine that's getting processed in the brain or pushed out in the brain, we're going to be more likely to get bored with things quicker. So this means that even if your space is perfect, which I love my space, I love the Funko Pops, I love that I have my bone of my dog that passed away just above my shoulder and things like that. Those are the things that make me happy, right? So it should make me want to come here every day, right? Not really, right? Because just because I love it doesn't mean I don't get bored with it sometimes. So having the option to take my iPad and go and sit on the couch and draw in there and be with my fiance, for instance, that's really appealing to me, and it's helped me be more consistent in a longer term work on my stuff. So again, I'm not going to act like this isn't coming from a place of privilege, right? Not everybody can just go out and buy an iPad. But if you do have the means to save up money, I would recommend, putting some of that money and investing in yourself if you're going to take this as a serious career path, and finding something that is mobile that will allow you to work outside of the office or even inside the office. I've actually kind of switched to using my iPad for everything at this point. So I do recommend doing that. And if you want to look at less expensive options, there are 2 YouTubers that I would highly recommend. One of them is Teo on Tech, and that's Teo on Tech, or Brad Calbo. Both of them have fantastic channels. They do very thorough reviews of these devices, and I think Brad even has a list on his website of best tablets, best cost efficient ones and stuff like that. So I highly recommend both their channels. The other thing that I do want to mention here is if you have the means to do this and you also have the means to use this as just an art tablet, for instance, don't put anything else on it. I haven't put anything on this iPad besides things that are geared towards art. Pictures are all geared towards art. The programs in it are only art programs, and that's because I don't want the distractions. I just don't. I kind of already told you the story about going through Instagram, and that's happened to me multiple times on the computer and things like that, so I just get rid of those obstacles before they're even there. Alright, let's go to the next one. Alrighty, so my next piece of advice for this particular topic of consistency is creating a schedule for yourself. So when you have ADHD, one of the things that people typically struggle with is something called executive functioning. And just to kind of shorten it up and make it really simple, it's the ability to follow through on tasks, right? And one of those things that is very difficult is just scheduling out your day in order to get those tasks done. So what I recommend is you buy something like this. And I haven't really written in this yet because I just bought a new one, but it has something like this where it has the days of the week and things of that nature, and it has hours. Now what I would recommend you do is you put in your like regular schedule within there. So if you work from 9 to 5, you put that in there, and you also want to put in there, carve out some of those times, and don't make it too long, because if it's too long it's going to feel too daunting. Just 10 minutes, something like that, that's dedicated in your day just to doing some kind of artwork. And that doesn't have to always be, hey, I'm going to create this extravagant piece, right? Nah, just 10 minutes, practice some skills, and that's that. Typically what will happen is you'll see it, you'll start, and then sometimes you'll get into a flow and you'll continue to go, right? The real reason behind this is to create a habit for yourself. That's extraordinarily important. And when you finish, you cross it off. Trust me, like in my brain, like I was like, this probably isn't gonna really work for me. But when I was doing it, I kind of stopped, but that's a different story. But when I was doing it, it felt really good to cross those things off, right? You feel really accomplished. Even if it only is a short-term, like 5-minute, 10-minute goal, that's perfectly fine, right? The other piece of it, though, is you also want to be as specific as possible while you're putting these things in. So don't just put in, oh, I'm going to draw for 10 minutes. Put in, I'm going to work on gestures for 10 minutes. I'm going to do drawings of heads for 10 minutes. I'm going to work on volumizing a body for 10 minutes. Perspective, whatever, right? Whatever you decide, coloring, values, what have you. That way you don't get to your desk and now you have to think about, oh, what am I going to draw? And then you spend 15 minutes thinking about what you're going to draw, and then the time has passed and you're like, whatever, I'm just going to play video games instead, right? So predict that that's the kind of person you are, because that's the kind of person I am sometimes, and just say, hey man, like this is what we're going to work on today. And you can make a schedule every week on Monday or something like that. Make it that your day that you're going to plot out your schedule for art in the week, and also your work schedule. Just put all that stuff in there so that you know that you can carve out just a little bit of time every single day to work on your art. Alrighty, let's go to our next one. Alrighty, so this is the last point of the video. Don't ever leave your desk upset. I think that my instructor Mark Brunet has like several videos that are extraordinarily well thought out on YouTube, so I'll try to see if I can at least find one and link it in the video. But the basic psychology behind it is kind of what I've been talking about throughout this entire video, and that is, if you leave your desk mad, you're going to be less likely to come back, because you're going to start associating your desk or drawing just in general with bad thoughts. So you don't want to do that. Trick your brain into thinking that it's the most positive thing in the world, which it is. Art's a lot of fun, but you have to trick yourself into really believing that. So that means, if you find that you really enjoy drawing, I don't know, Mickey Mouse, for instance, right? Every time before you leave your desk, draw Mickey Mouse. Or if you just like doodling goofy stuff like fun stuff like flowers and unicorns and whatever, right? I guess I got Tiny Tina on my brain. That's the game that I've been playing recently, and that's kind of what's in Tiny Tina. So. But anyways, yeah, so whatever you find fun, just just draw that before you leave. You don't want to leave being really frustrated, because again, you're less likely to come back, you're less likely to sit down, and then your brain is associating all of the artwork that you do that's fantastic towards something that isn't fantastic, and it's just going to be a very hard process to remotivate yourself to come back. So that is my video. I do hope that this was helpful for you. I think that McKay and Gray like kind of talked a little bit about this and had a small video about this, and it actually really like motivated me to want to do this and kind of share my own experience. So I really appreciate if you watched all the way to the end. I really appreciate you for watching all the way to the end, and I do hope that this was valuable information for you. Again, it was something that doing some of these things was really helpful for me, and I just wanted to pass along that knowledge. So anyways, again, I hope that was helpful, and hopefully soon I'll be able to start doing videos with like actual drawing and stuff like that. I need to figure out my setup because I don't have Clip Studio on my computer right now. It's just on the tablet, so I'll figure that stuff out and start doing live streams and everything like that again. Alright, I'm Manga Mike, and I'm out.